Imagine waking up inside a coffin, clawing at darkness while a tiny bell above your grave rings in the night, and knowing that little jingle might be the only thing standing between you and a very premature afterlife. Hold that chilling thought, because by the end of today's journey, you'll see how a single safety bell from the 1700s still echoes every time someone jokes they were saved by the bell. Before we pry open 20 dusty history trunks, smash that like button like Napoleon swatting at stampeding rabbits, and subscribe so you never miss the wild stories hiding behind everyday words and objects. Let's turn your feed into the greatest time travel tour on YouTube. No DeLorean required. 1. Teddy's Bear, the President, the Cartoon, and a Global Cuddle. Mississippi, November 1902. President Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy to the press, rides deep into the swamps on a bear hunt. After days with no luck, guides corner an exhausted black bear, tie it to a tree, and beckon the president for an easy kill. Roosevelt, appalled, refuses. Clifford Berryman's political cartoon the next morning immortalizes the moment. Roosevelt turning away from a pleading cub. Brooklyn toy makers Morris and Rose Michtom sense magic. That weekend they sew a plush cub, sit it in the shop window, and label it Teddy's Bear. Customers flood in. Roosevelt grants permission, and by Christmas, the new teddy bear craze sweeps America. Stuffed bears follow soldiers to the trenches of World War I, soothe children through the Great Depression, and march right into pop culture. Paddington, Winnie the Pooh, Care Bears, Build-A-Bear, all because one rough-riding president showed mercy in a swamp. 2. Napoleon versus the Killer Cottontails. Fast forward a century to Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte, fresh off battlefield triumphs, deciding to host a celebratory rabbit hunt. Chief of Staff Alexandre Berthier dutifully arranges hundreds of bunnies. Not wild hares, but plump, farm-raised fluff balls used to feeding time. When the cages open, the quarry surges toward Napoleon in a tidal wave of fur, clinging to boots, clawing up trousers, begging for snacks. Witnesses howl as the world's most feared general retreats behind his carriage, swatting rabbits with an elegant riding crop. In an empire built on discipline, it's the tame and hungry that rout the conqueror. Today, memes of Napoleon defeated by rabbits circulate every Easter, reminding us that even legends can be undone by the unexpected, and that leadership dinners should never outsource the livestock. 3. Saved by the Bell, when premature burial was trending. Europe, late 1700s. Medical science lags behind superstition, and cholera sweeps cities. Tales spread of coffins exhumed to reveal scratch marks on the lid. Victims buried in a coma awaken too late. Entrepreneurs invent the safety coffin, a string tied to the corpse's wrist that threads through a pipe to a surface bell. Graveyard watchmen, sexton shifts, listen all night. Though few credible rescues occur, the public's morbid fascination embeds the phrase "saved by the bell" in English. By the 19th century, it jumps the Atlantic, infiltrating boxing rings as the bell that ends a perilous round. And when high school sitcom writers need a punchy title in 1989, they pull the idiom straight from this coffin contraption. 4. From pie tin to park legend, the Frisbee takes flight. 1880s, Connecticut. The Frisbee Pie Company sells flaky desserts to Yale students. Between bites, undergrads fling the empty tins, yelling "Frisbee" to warn pedestrians. Decades later, World War II veteran Fred Morrison, recalling beachside tin tossing, molds a plastic flying disc. Enter Wham-O, the toy giant behind the hula hoop. They license Morrison's design in 1957, tweak the aerodynamics, and, fearing trademark issues, change the IE to E. The Frisbee becomes a campus staple, then a competitive sport, then ultimate Frisbee, then disc golf. Every time you hurl that neon saucer across a summer sky, you're chasing a pie plate from a 19th century bakery. 5. Caught red-handed. Blood, sheep, and 15th century justice. Scotland's border reivers live by rustling cattle and sheep. Local law dictates that if a thief is apprehended with fresh blood on hands or blade, flagrant delicto, no trial is needed. Landowners patrol night hills, lanterns in hand, seeking crimson-stained culprits. Over centuries, the British legal system softens, but the visceral image sticks. Today, a teenager nabbed with exam answers on their phone is still caught red-handed, unaware that phrase once meant literal livestock blood under the Scottish moon. 6. To boycott or not to boycott. Captain Charles's Unwanted Legacy. County Mayo, Ireland, 1880. Captain Charles Boycott manages estates for absentee Lord Erne during a ravaging potato blight. When tenants plead for rent reduction, Boycott threatens eviction. Irish Land League leaders propose a radical response. No threats, no violence. Simply cut him off. Workers quit. Shops refuse service. Mail carriers stop delivery. Crops rot in fields guarded by nervous constables. Journalist James Redpath coins a new verb, boycotting. Within months, newspapers from New York to New Delhi adopt the word. From civil rights bus strikes to hashtags urging brand blacklists, every modern boycott echoes a lonely land agent riding through empty Irish lanes. 7. The 35. Swoosh that launched 1 billion souls. Portland State University, 1971. Graphic design student Carolyn Davidson sketches a fluid checkmark meant to convey motion for Phil Knight's startup, Blue Ribbon Sports. Her fee, $35. Enough to pay for oil painting classes. Knight renames the company Nike after the Greek goddess of victory, slaps the swoosh on running shoes, and sparks a global juggernaut. In 1983, Nike surprises Davidson with a swoosh-shaped ring and stock reportedly worth over $1 million. Today, the logo is tattooed on athletes, etched into skate parks, projected on skyscrapers during the Olympics, all birthed from a college kid's quick sketch over a bowl of ramen. 8. Churchill's Phantom Voice. May 1941. Londoners huddle around wireless sets as Winston Churchill's rousing baritone promises, "We shall never surrender." Few know the recording was made inside a BBC studio by actor Norman Shelley, imitating Churchill while the Prime Minister travels abroad. Logbooks reveal at least 3 wartime broadcasts credited to private recording, later traced to Shelley. Though Churchill did deliver hundreds of speeches live, the stand-ins kept morale steady whenever logistics intervened. It's an early lesson in brand management. Protect the message, even if the messenger changes. 9. Deadline. Where late means dead. Andersonville, Georgia, 1864. The Civil War's most notorious POW camp houses 33,000 Union soldiers behind flimsy stockades. A second inner fence runs 15 feet inside the walls. The deadline. Cross it, and guards fire without warning. After the war, journalist George Alfred Townsend invokes the term to describe feverish newspaper timelines. By the 1920s, printing rooms christen nightly cutoffs their deadline, and soon every office inherits the word. Next time your boss demands that report by close of play, be glad missing it won't trigger Confederate sharpshooters. 11. The Sandwich. Gambling fuel turned global staple. London's Cocoa Tree Club, 1762. John Montagu, 4th Earl of Sandwich, engrossed in an all-night cribbage binge, requests salted beef between toasted bread slices so he can eat single-handedly without greasing the cards. Fellow gamblers shout, "I'll take the same as Sandwich." His convenient snack crosses the Atlantic with immigrants, morphs into New Orleans po' boys, Vietnamese banh mi, New York pastrami on rye. Every school lunch PB&J traces its lineage to one aristocrat who refused to fold on a hot streak. 12. Scapegoat. Sins on hooves. Ancient Jerusalem Day of Atonement. High Priest Aaron places hands on a live goat, transferring the community's sins symbolically onto the animal. The Azazel goat is then led into the wilderness, carrying guilt away. Greek translators render it Tragos Apopherion, goat that departs, and by the 16th century English Protestant writers coin scapegoat. Today, from office blame games to sports fan fury, we still load failures onto an unlucky soul and drive them out, honoring a Bronze Age ritual we barely recall. 13. Louis Braille, teenage trailblazer of touch. Paris, 1824. 15-year-old Louis Braille, blinded by a leatherworking awl accident at age 3, tinkers after curfew with a military night writing code of raised dots. He pairs 12 dots down to a 6-dot cell, creating 63 combinations, enough for letters, punctuation, even music notation. Rejected by some educators as too efficient, they feared students would outperform sighted peers, Braille's system ultimately prevails. Today, elevators, ATMs, and Lego bricks stamp his patterns, testament to youth innovation changing millions of lives. 14. Dunce cap. Wisdom funnel. Turned punchline. 13th century Scotland. theologian John Duns Scotus proposes a cone-shaped hat, representing the perfect geometric form, channeling divine knowledge down to the wearer's brain. Renaissance humanists later ridicule scholastic philosophers as outdated dunce men, and by the Victorian era, schoolmasters forced struggling pupils to wear dunce caps, flipping genius into shame. Ironically, modern studies of conic vortex airflow suggest Scotus wasn't wholly wrong about focus, though we wouldn't recommend pointy hats for your next study session. 15. Quarantine, Venice's 40-day shield. Venetian Republic, 1348. Plague-ravaged Europe watches ships sail in from the Levant. To protect its marble-clad lagoon city, Venice decrees arriving vessels anchor at the island of Lazaretto Vecchio for 40 giorni, 40 days, long enough for symptoms to appear or subside. The term quarantine migrates to English ports, to Ellis Island health inspectors, to 2020 household lexicons. The numerical root, 40, echoes biblical floods, wilderness trials, and medical incubation periods, proving that sometimes the best defense is patience on a picturesque sandbar. 16. The Basel Chicken Trial. Basel, Switzerland, 1474. Town judges face an unprecedented case. A hen accused of laying a cock's egg, believed to house a basilisk. The court appoints defense counsel, hears witness testimony, all human, and convicts the bird of witchcraft. Sentence: public burning. Though absurd, animal trials were common across medieval Europe. Pigs hanged for murder, locusts excommunicated. These spectacles reinforced communal order and divine justice, reminding citizens that even beasts must obey man's law, a curious precursor to today's pet lawsuits and corporate legal personhood. 17. Bite the bullet, field surgery's last resort. Crimean War Hospitals, 1854. Lister's antiseptics and ether exist, but rarely reach muddy tents near battle lines. Surgeons saw through shattered limbs while assistants hold soldiers down. A .577 caliber Minié ball is placed between the patient's teeth to prevent tongue biting and muffle screams. The phrase "bite the bullet" gallops into English parlance by the Indian Mutiny of 1857, immortalized in Kipling's prose. Today, whether facing a tax audit or a dentist drill, we echo those grim wards with far less gore. 18. Abraham Lincoln, rail splitter, lawyer, wrestling legend. New Salem, Illinois, 1831. A lanky store clerk named Abraham Lincoln accepts local wrestling champion Jack Armstrong's challenge. In a rough and tumble match, rules permit headlocks and body slams. Lincoln pins Armstrong, earning respect of the rowdy Clary's Grove boys. Lincoln's 300-1 record enshrines him posthumously in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Campaign posters later boast, "Honest Abe can throw any man." Next time a debate moderator calls modern elections wrestling matches, remember America once elected an actual grappler. 19. Bluetooth Vikings in your earbuds. Denmark, circa 958 CE. King Harald Blåtand Gormson unites warring Danes and Christianizes his realm. A millennium later, Intel engineer Jim Kardach, reading the long ships, names his new short-range radio project Bluetooth, symbolizing device unification. The logo merges the Nordic runes Hagelas and Berkana, Harald's initials, into a single bind rune carved onto every smartphone. So, each time your earbuds sync, you salute a Viking king whose moniker may have stemmed from a love of blueberries or a rotting tooth. 20. The Wicked Bible, Thou Shalt Commit Adultery. London, 1631. Royal printers Robert Barker and Martin Lucas rush a reprint of the King James Bible, omitting a crucial knot in Exodus 20:14. The commandment now reads, "Thou shalt commit adultery." Outraged clergy dub it the Wicked Bible. King Charles I orders all copies burned and fines the printers £300, a fortune. Surviving copies number fewer than 20 and fetch six-figure sums at auction. Modern typos seldom incur royal wrath, but every spell checker owes a debt to this epic biblical blooper. Remember that eerie bell at the start? In 1890, London's Kensal Green Cemetery still offered Mort safes with signaling devices, long after medical science had rendered them obsolete. Not a single verified case of a bell saving the buried exists, yet the gadget captured imaginations and language forever. History hides in plain sight. In your teddy bear's stitched grin, your Bluetooth icon, the word deadline on your project board. 20 tales, one continuous thread. Ordinary objects woven from extraordinary moments. So, if this video rang your mental bells, like, subscribe, and share it with friends who think trivia nights are their coliseum. Drop a comment on which story blew your mind the most, or suggest what forgotten fragment we should dig up next. Until then, keep your hands clean of sheep's blood, and don't forget to check for rabbits before planning your next victory parade.